of things we had never expected to experience. And Africa was under extreme duress and continues to be. Thank you. Was under extreme duress and continues to be. Um, and the numbers are staggering because you have literally a contraction of some 2%. Ghana were able to eke out some 0.4%. But 113 maybe million people lost their jobs. We had 30 million people going into extreme poverty and about 39 million into poverty. And our debt to GDP ratios moved from like 52 to 70%, which made it distress and unsustainable. And then we also saw the injustice of the system when you begin to look at, the vaccine record, where 68 of 100 people in the West may have had their doses, and you have, is it 2 or something out of 100 for Africa. There's suddenly been a bit of a reversal, and I think there's a lot more consideration for that. But it just shows you the structure of the global financial landscape, and when you add it to the actual use of funds, where maybe close to 15 trillion was used by the G20 to support their economies, about 20% of their GDP. And we were barely able to do about 2% of our economies, leaving our people extremely vulnerable. So the very structure of the global financial architecture is just not, fit for purpose. And it was done in the Bretton Woods time, 1946-3, which meant that they were looking at the investment and savings gap to then support a post-war agreement. I think Ethiopia might have been the only African country at the table at that time. So clearly, there needs to be a rethink, really a tectonic shift in that. And that's where then you begin to look at AFCFTA as a new chassis and understand this 400 years of our brothers and sisters being taken away as to whether it's actually now a resource that has to be fully developed, exploited, brought home, and the resources are just incredible. So the combination of a new platform of AFCFTA, combine that with the talent and the resources of the diaspora, and then getting out the rigidities and the injustices of illicit financial flows, taxation, etc., really changes the whole future for us. Classical economists literally says the person who brings the equity gets the most return. So if you assume that we bring most of the raw material, which is the equity, to then value add, how come we are not getting the returns that we should? And I think that's a new bold thinking that we should, insist on, exert, and make things change. So for us in Ghana, since we came into office, I guess our preoccupation was to stabilize the macro framework to enable people to be able to plan properly. So how do you create economic freedom such that, it's not excessive taxes, but ways in which you can support production and productivity. And also at the same time, have a sort of liberation theology, understanding of a preferential treatment for the poor, so that social mobility will go up, which meant fundamentally for a right-to-center party, you talk about capital. And our best capital, of course, is a human resource. And therefore, the amount of the choices we made to put resources into education and skills training as foundational, because then it's limitless, what people can do with their talents. So that's what we've been going on. And I suspect that we've been reasonably successful because in the wake of the pandemic, it is quite clear that but for the store of value that we had done the 3 years, it would have been a very sad story. But amongst all of that was a clarity of ensuring that social good was done. So in the farming community, almost 2 million people benefited from the Planting for Food program. Free senior high school led to 1.2 million people now being there as opposed to them not being in school. 1D, 1F led to over 100 factories around the country. Graduate beneficiaries, NAPCO school feeding program literally doubled so that we could give the meals a day. So the issue is, how do you create a society of fairness and social mobility and reduce your Gini coefficient so that, there's a sort of equality in the progress that we're making. Then the pandemic hit, and President was very clear in his mind that we had the competence to fix the economy, but certainly not the miraculous hand to bring people to life. So we put a lot of resources into that, and that led to almost maybe 25 billion in terms of lost income and increased expenditure. But that was the president's choice, and that was a good way to show faith with the people of Ghana. But even within that was a 750 million program for the CAP bus, which was to support micro enterprises and put some fuel into the economy as stimulus. And I think that held us well. Bank of Ghana also gave quite a bit of forbearance to the banks to ensure that there was a lot more liquidity than before. So the crisis, which you shouldn't waste, presented a unique opportunity to bounce back. So for us in government, we were encouraged to do as such by the president, who said we should use a crisis to recreate our country by tackling the fundamental challenges which have previously inhibited our development. So he charged us at the ministry to put a blueprint together for our recovery. And that's what we did with what we called the Ghana Cares Obatampa program. And I truly encourage all of us, thank you, to read the document and plug into it, because it clearly outlines where we want to go as a country the next 3 years. And it's developed by us and for us, within the umbrella of the Ghana Beyond Aid document, which I hope you've all seen. But the Ghana Beyond Aid document essentially has 3 pillars. One which says, who are we as Ghanaians? And therefore, what are the issues of discipline, attitude, hard work, the virtues that will move us forward and not feel entitled, but truly work and sacrifice to build the nation that we should have. The second is whether we can create a broad consensus of where we should go as a nation, so that the discussions about our future is truly about we all acknowledging the direction we should go, CSOs, parliamentarians, citizens, and then we argue on the margins, but not on every issue, which then makes it difficult to move forward. And then the third leg, of course, is the transformation revitalization program, which we've designed through the Ghana Cares or Batampa program. And that's where we are. But this program essentially has 30%, is a 100 billion program. That's a quarter of our GDP, which is the largest such thing any government has done or seeking to do, of which 30% should be government funded and 70% would be private sector funded through JVs. And that's where the issues of AFCFTA and diasporans come into play. How do we galvanize this hidden treasure, in a sense, to then move into an era of an Africa beyond aid? But the numbers are incredible. A mere 1% change in world trade with Africa leads to about $70 billion for us. As the DG said, the World Bank has also calculated a change in intra-trade, which will lead to trillions of dollars for us. The recent issues of discussions on minimum tax of 15% will lead to a change of illicit financial flows, which is about 88 billion that leaves this country. And it's not by maroon pirates, but by very decent multinationals who we can't chase because we don't have the technology. And so the 15% minimum, will bring quite a bit of resources. We just did some analysis, was it last week, about some of the oil companies, and the effective tax was about 4%. And, you begin to understand how these things are legally done. So the challenge for us to the diasporan community is the appreciation of this new document as to what we're going to do the next 3 years to become a regional hub, because now we have the mandate to do that, with AFCFTA being here to encourage industrialization, agribusiness, fintech, the very encouraging response by Twitter and Google in this country, and to use, therefore, the knowledge of the diaspora beyond issues of remittances, which are quite impressive because of about 2-3 million Ghanaians outside, that results in nearly 3 billion plus remittances a year. And that's an incredible productivity level that we have. And then if you move to the broader diasporan community, I think that's about 142 million around the globe. The US has about 43 million of them, Brazil 15 million. And on the US statistics side, I think you have about 1.4 trillion buying power of the African American community in there, expected to grow to 1.8 to 2 trillion in short order. So you can see the limitless there, but that's just money. The real issue is the talent that we can tap into for in any area that we want, which will bring a whole renaissance to us. So there has to be deliberateness and care and a response factor. And we have to also own what occurred 400 years ago and understand that this is not really a revenue-seeking mechanism, but one of showing solidarity and dignity and a homeland for our diasporans. So the president also has directed that we have a Homeland Act which then will legitimize the way in which our brothers and sisters can come in safely in a way that, really brings the diasporan community together and bring Africa back to what it should be. So it's not only economic, it's spiritual, it's a sense of belongingness, it's a sense of coming back together as a people and really reasserting the black race in where it should be. And will there be difficulties in coming? Of course, there'll be difficulties in coming, and we have to make sure that we smoothen that path, and we have a commitment to that. I think one thing that Ghanaians need to accept, which is humbling, I believe Ghana has a manifest destiny of greatness, but it is that greatness can be procured when we are very clear that Ghana is not a geography, but Ghana is an idea of independence and unity and freedom, which Nkrumah started and catalyzed the whole independence of the continent. And now, 60 years later, we have been given AFCFTA, which is economic emancipation, another idea that trade and investment is now the new order, and how are we going to take care of it? And how do you create this green space pillar of stability to really draw in the talent that we have globally and correct, a historical blunder, which one of our historians called an issue which has no justification whatsoever. This is Professor Dubois that we must correct. So it is due time for us to do that, and I think the commitment from the country is clear. So for Ghanaians who are coming back, I did that some 30 years ago, and it's really, actually, our experience has been that we should come with all modesty, open minds, no expectations, but you are coming home. Opportunities do abound, and this is your land, So with all the what's and whatever, you went to a foreign land and succeeded. You must have more tolerance for the inefficiencies that you face, but this is home. And home demands sacrifices. We will do what we can to accelerate and facilitate, but truly it has to be a heart game. That this is where, in the end, I want to make my contribution to my country and to the black race. So we've gone through quite a bit. I think GIPC has a lot of areas that one can invest in. Ministry of Trade has a 10-point transformation agenda. So the path is laid out. And as the lady said at the beginning, it's from Toronto. There's just enormous opportunities that you can see, that maybe even I can see, to grow in Ghana and to grow with Ghana. Because really it was outlandish when Kelly and I landed some 30 years ago in 1990 and said that we're going to start an investment bank. Two people with no cash, precocious young people, and to start an investment bank of an office in a cousin's construction firm in Kantamanto. Now, that's like a pipe dream. 30 years later, you have over 500,000 clients. You are managing over $1 billion worth of capital, and you realize that it can be done. It can be done, and this is a great place for that. So now, with the privileged position of being at Ministry of Finance, one has absolutely deep empathy and an appreciation of what that first modest step can lead to. And therefore, you can be sure that we will be there to help you in whichever way you choose to. But I think we have a deep responsibility to personally make those decisions so that the changes in governments, the vicissitudes of politics, is not what you look at, but you look deep down in your heart as to why you are coming, and that this is the place. Ghana is an idea that has to be unfurled.